Good morning, everybody. I think this is awesome that our Oneida Business Committee starts out their mornings, their weekly meetings, with these honors of all the Oneidas. And especially it's my honor to be here to see Gordy and Betty up here today. And those guys they've both been through a number of wars. And I'm glad our veterans are here to see this too today, because these are truly our warriors that have started on our sovereignty, fighting and saving our sovereignty. But I do want to read something that it's just a little snapshot about Gordy. Myself, as well as almost everybody here, could go on for days and tell stories and recollections of things that Gordy's been involved with. But today, I just want to read, like I said, a snapshot. Gordon McLester is an esteemed elder of the tribe. He's a historian, an author, and a retired government official. So he also sat here, up at the table here, when it was at the tribal building, for many, many years. Because of his work, the Oneida Nation has a documented collection of the work that epitomizes our culture, our history, and our community. His books and projects are utilized in various venues to encourage and advance intercultural understanding and appreciation of the Oneida Nation. In July of 1986, the Oneida Nation held our first inaugural history conference. It was at our newly constructed Oneida Roadway Inn, which is now known as the Radisson. The conference was coordinated by Gordy. This was the first in countless initiatives led by Gordy, which brought forward a rekindling of pride, knowledge, and appreciation of the history and culture of the Oneida Nation. The first of the publications came from him, and came from that first history conference, and that was the Oneida Indian Experience. Two perspectives. That was the first. Gordy, in his modesty, was not credited as the editor or the reviewer of the book, but he was personally and professionally the responsible party in bringing the book to fruition. Following the first book, Gordy was credited as editor of the other books: The Oneida Indian Journey, The Oneida Indians in the Age of Allotment. He's the co-author of the Chief Daniel Bread, Oneida Nation of Indians. He also co-edited the book A Nation Within a Nation, Voices of the Oneidas in Wisconsin. Today, he's presenting his latest publication about the relationship between the Oneida Nation and the Episcopal Church. Few tribes across the nation have had as much written about them at the hands of tribal members. The books chronicle the experience and the accomplishments of a nation within the nation, as noted in one of his books. These books are invaluable resources available in our schools and libraries, and provide the readers with first-hand account of the Oneida Nation, a rise from poverty-stricken reservation to a strong and powerful sovereign nation. The books are just one of the accomplishments of Gordon McLester. As a former elected official, he served as tribal secretary and councilman, and he was an integral part of the growth of gaming. He advanced casino gaming while on the business committee and continued to launch our casino games as the project manager of the Oneida Casino. Gordy had the guts to make dramatic, bold moves on the laws and introduce slot machines into our bingo hall. Under his management, he successfully completed an expansion ahead of schedule and under budget. What he did was say, just bring them in, we'll figure out. We had attorneys. We had a lot of attorneys. They'll figure out how to make it legal. Gordy has produced a collection of video interviews of the Oneida elders, and he shared these recollections and experiences. Over the years, he collected videos of more than 500 of our eldest Oneida. He and Lois Paulus and his sister Judy put those videos together, and many of us have those precious memories in our homes. Today, the families really treasure those videos. He also sat in the council and was in full support of Oneida becoming the first tribal smoke shop in our region. He was instrumental in the development of the tribal corporation to sell untaxed tobacco in Oneida. He also owned and operated with his father, Lee McLester, a machine shop on the reservation for 17 years and employed and trained many tribal members through an internship program. The Oneida Reservation has many functions which preserve our culture and our history and cultivate positive intercultural relationships in our community. Gordy's also served on the vestry of the Oneida Holy Apostles Church, which is the oldest Native American Episcopal mission in the United States. He also coordinated a history conference for the church and celebrated their 175th anniversary. Gordy's work doesn't stop at the reservation boundaries. He's been as active as one of the Oneida singers for more than 30 years. He and Betty were both Oneida singers for many, many years. And he was instrumental in nominating the Oneida Singers and recognized by the National Endowment of the Arts, which was awarded the Heritage Foundation Award in 2008 in Washington, D.C., at which time a group of Oneida singers all traveled to be recognized in Washington, D.C. From 1889 to 1993, Gordy organized three cultural exchanges in Europe with more than 160 members from Wisconsin's 11 tribes. They were all ages, and they shared their language, dances, songs, and traditions with various European communities. I heard somebody mention about this kindergarten teacher and how gifted she was to manage all those kindergarten children. Well, I think Gordy's pretty gifted too, to have taken all of those people over to Europe over the weeks and to manage all those different tribes. And everybody came back safe and well informed. He also serves on the advisory committee for the National Native American Veterans Memorial Project in Washington, D.C. Gordy's a veteran of the United States Marine Corps Reserve. He didn't achieve his success single-handedly. Nobody does. But his bold, competent, and perseverance was critical in the approach to success by being the catalyst for change on the Oneida Reservation. He lives on the Oneida Reservation with his wife Betty of 60 years, spends his time continuing to do research, write, and take care of his grandchildren and his great-great-grandchildren. Betty and Gordy have 2 sons and 2 daughters and a whole bunch of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So it's a pleasure for me to stand here and talk about him. And I have just a few others to speak today. And following our recognition, we'll be going to a small conference room down the hall here where other family members and others are certainly welcome to speak to Gordy and speak about his behalf. But at this time, I would like to invite his son Eric up to say a few words.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. I know Jerry spoke and Bobby spoke about my father, and so there's going to be some repeat here, but it's worth saying again. Again, thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of our family about the man you honor here today. I know we are all very grateful to the tribe and to the business committee for this recognition of his life's work. For those that have had the opportunity to get to know him, he projects a larger-than-life presence. He is a hard-working, no-nonsense kind of guy who had the attitude that there was no challenge you couldn't overcome. You can't fit more slot machines in that room? Knock the walls out. You can't open until the money is all counted? Build a bigger vault. Count it later, but start making money. He always found a way to get things done and make things happen. He and my mother worked hard so that our family, and so many families in Oneida, could have a better life. In Oneida, everyone is family, and family comes first. That is a theme we have watched them repeat over and over our whole lives. Help your tribe, help your tribal members, because we are all related. Everything he did was to always advance the Oneida tribe. He worked hard making sure Oneida was recognized right alongside any other group or nationality in the area. He was educating schools about real Indian history long before there was a Title VII or a mascot issue. He worked hard to share Oneida dance, culture, and history with whoever was willing to be open and listen. He took the time to learn everything he could from the elders here and out east about Oneida culture and history. When he spoke about Oneida, he did it with honor and respect. You could not hear him speak about Oneida history without learning the lessons he was teaching. Oneida people still exist here, and we are a proud nation with a rich culture. He taught you to be proud to be Oneida. His life is a long and rich story, just like the people, places, and times he writes about in his books about Oneida. His story is a remarkable and rewarding story that so many people have been a part of. He has had such a huge influence on so many lives. I can't do him justice with just a short reading of just a few of the highlights of his life, because there's so many people who make up his life story. There's the Oneida Drum Group, there's the Oneida Powwow, the history conferences, the years on the business committee, the powwows in Germany and all over Europe, the Oneida Casino years, the Bear Paw years, the videotaping of the elders. The list just goes on and on and on. Each one of these is another story and another book. Thank you for taking the time and giving him this recognition, which he would say he doesn't deserve, but shows that all his efforts have not gone unnoticed, and we appreciate this man for all he's done for the Oneida tribe. Thank you.
This is the latest book, The Wisconsin Oneidas and the Episcopal Church. And before we move to Gordy, I do want to ask the Bishop Gunther, who is here today, to please come up and say a few words before Bishop speaks. Can we have Skipper and his family stand up, please? And Eric and his family. His daughter Julie and her family. And Jenny's family. This is Gordon and Betty's first line legacy. These are the children and the grandchildren of Betty and Gordy.
Good morning. I am Matt Gunter, the Bishop of the Diocese of Fond du Lac, of which Holy Apostles is the oldest congregation. And it is a pleasure and an honor to get to say a few words here. Not only is Holy Apostles the oldest native congregation continuing to worship and the oldest Episcopal church in the Diocese of Fond du Lac, it's the oldest in Wisconsin. And while traditionally we refer to our cathedral as the Mother Church, I have, since I've been here, suggesting that Holy Apostles is the grandmother church of the Diocese of Fond du Lac. And it's a pleasure and a joy to get to be the bishop there, and it's a pleasure and a joy to have gotten to know Gordy a bit, as well as Betty and some of the rest of the family. You've heard an awful lot about how much Gordy has done, but as a person who was a history teacher before going into ministry, what I most cherish about Gordy is his work as a historian, not only because I find history interesting in its own right and have enjoyed learning the story of the Oneida, but I am convinced that unless we know who we've been and where we've been, it's hard to know who we are and where we're going. And Gordy has done a great service to the people of Oneida to remind them and us all of your journey, which is nothing short of epic and almost biblical in its story. A story of proud people who are determined to survive and thrive in spite of a good many obstacles and ups and downs. And I have very much appreciated learning some of that story as an outsider, but now an outsider who has a deep personal interest in the Oneida story. So I thank Gordy for his work as a historian, for his service at Holy Apostles and in the Episcopal Church, Diocese of Fond du Lac, Betty and much of the rest of the family. And it is great joy to have a chance to speak a bit about him, and I'm grateful for his work. Thank you, Gordy.
All right, this time we're going to hear from Gordon. He's got a few words he wants to say. And I remember one of his quotes is, you talk about a matriarchal matrilineal society, and he always said how his grandma Blanche said, when she said to jump, you jumped, and you didn't come down till she told you to.
My DI said that too. sorry. Is this working?
It's working.
Okay. I'm sorry that I can't. I can, but it's just easier for me to sit down, as you well know, because you've been sitting here quite a while. So, but the first thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to give thanks to the Creator for providing this day. I can't explain it to you. Some of you probably understand and know, and it's just it's kind of an eerie feeling, and it's a proud feeling, and it's an appreciative feeling, but it's still kind of scary. And I just you know, I was thinking all this past week, all the different things that were coming up, and what was going to be done and what was going to be said, and I didn't know anything about what any of that, because some people that were doing this didn't tell me. So I came here prepared with all kinds of thoughts and things like that, and nothing went the way I thought it would. There's so many different things. When Jerry got up and spoke, it reminded me of when I sat down at the parish hall, and I can remember Oscar Archquit and Denison Hill going at it before the meeting, before the BIA man came in to convene the meeting, but they were going at it in Oneida. And you had to sit next to somebody that could speak Oneida to know what was going on. But the thing was that they were conversing their whole situation and comments and thoughts in Oneida. And I'm sitting there realizing that, and that was probably about 1954, 55, that happened when I was there at the, I would have assumed it was a general tribal council meeting, but I don't remember. All I know is that there had to be a BIA man there before we could start our meeting. And at the time, those two were going at it and then having a fierce discussion in Oneida. But the point was is that they were conversing in the language. And, you know, that really impressed me, as it did when I went to some of the other tribes that I had worked for throughout my past years. And when they opened up and they convened their whole meetings in their native language. And when Jerry spoke and gave the opening, as well as I don't get a chance to hear it because I don't get a chance to go to the meetings. I get a chance, but I just, you know, when you're mostly can't see nothing, can't hear nothing, can't walk, I'll stay home and listen to the golden oldies of the 50s. But that's what struck me when Jerry started. Then what you had was the people that had all of the accumulated years that they've accumulated. And it brings back memories to me of Tony Uchik, I believe. Somebody can correct me if they can, a lot of you can remember him. But I believe he was our first tribal employee. And that was the 701 planning grant that we got. Before that, we didn't have any employees. And he was the first one to come on, and then it followed, and now you got how many thousands? You know, it's fascinating. It's just so exciting to see that. You see the picture here, and then all of a sudden it flashes over to here, you know, and you got, what, 3,000 to 4,000 people? Maybe even more that we don't know about. And when you come and you sit into a business committee meeting, you sit in this room and look at how nice it is. You don't have to wear a coat. when we sat in the meeting in the business committee meeting, it was at the Chicago Cornice building, at the CC camp. That was my time. Before that, they used to meet in private homes. But there was a potbelly stove in the middle of the CC camp building there. And you'd sit this way for a while, and everybody would turn around for a little bit and get warm the other way. I don't see any of you having to turn around anymore like that. So face this way. Now, each one of these people of the 30, now, we had one employee, now we've got people 30, 40 years. I know my daughter-in-law went to work at the roadway, and I don't know how many years is she out there, Skip?
34.
How many? 34. She must have went there when she was in grade school. But it's just like it's growing right before your eyes. Just like your child. You step back and you watch it grow and you watch it grow. And the things that they're doing and the way that things are going, I just can't help but look at and listen and wonder what's next. What's coming? Geez, I'm going to miss some of it, I know. But today is today, and today I'll live that day. But what I miss, somebody behind me will come along and tell me the story on the other side. Because, some people call this history and a historian and things like that. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm just a passer of stories. I'm a conduit. That's the kind of, was the name that Dick Christian gave me 40, 50 years ago now, I forget. But it was he who takes some of them along, was what we worked on back in the early 70s. And at that time we had Jack Campisi and we had Larry Hauptman working with us, and he worked on the development of a curriculum back in Seymour in I think it was about 1971, 72, and it was the first curriculum that was developed to go into the school system, and then we worked on the language. But the point I'm trying to get to is that I don't feel like a historian. I don't feel like whatever the kind of handle you might want to put on me. I feel like a being, a portion of something that's flowing, maybe like laying in a leaf in the water, and it's flowing down Duck Creek or any other creek, and I'm laying on that leaf. And all of a sudden, the Creator picked me up, and He brought me out of that water, and He delivered me to my mother, who is Pearl. She's sitting here. She's 90 to 100 years old. I don't know which. But she's right up there. But I feel that the Creator took me and give me to my mother, and then from there she took care of me, and she nurtured me along with my brothers and sisters, which was Ronnie and Donnie and Judy, Winifred and Tiny, and my other sister Patsy. Ronnie and Patsy have since passed away, and then my dad Lee, he was Lee Jr., I'm Lee the third, Skipper's Lee the fourth, my grandson is Lee the fifth, and then his son, they stopped it at the fifth. His name is Elijah. But my grandpa said, when you got a good thing going, don't stop. But like I said, my mother nurtured us and our family. And we had, just like everybody else, you know, we had our hard times. No running water, no lights, no vehicles. The whole ball of wax. All of you and your parents and your grandparents experienced that, I'm sure. And if you haven't, you should. And then in 1957 was a major change in my personal philosophy, because I graduated from high school and I joined the Marine Reserve, and so they sent me to San Diego to boot camp in the reserves, and I was there active for 6 months, and then I had another 5.5 years of inactive duty. But when I went into the Marine Corps in boot camp, that was a whole new world, and I was scared as ever when I first got there, because I had been in the reserves all the years I was in senior high school. I mean, a senior in high school. So I had a uniform that was salty, which means it was used, it had been washed. So when I got there, I thought, well, I'll put that salty uniform on and you know, be kind of impressive, you know, a Hollywood Marine. And when they found out that I had been in the reserves and I was wearing this the uniform, you know, the salty uniform, I was looking this way, and all of a sudden there was somebody behind me, and next I found myself on the ground with my sea bag on top of me, and that's how it started out for me. And I was scared than ever. And then my mom said, I told Mom to write me a letter. So she wrote some letters, but they never got to me. So I was, you know, going through a traumatic experience there. She didn't know what was going on here. And finally, you know, the DI says, you shape up or ship out. And he said, you know, straighten up and fly right, so to speak. So I did, and I got out of there. But what I learned in there is there was nothing that I couldn't do. I mean, it was reinforced, I should say, because I had that type of teaching when I was younger, especially with my grandparents. But when I was in there, I learned that you work as a team. You work as not an I, but a we. And your buddy is your buddy. And you never leave your buddy no place. And he doesn't leave you. And that's one of the major things that I learned while I was in there that short time. And after I came home, then I got married, and this is who I married right here. Betty Benson. And that was in 1959, and we started our family, and we had four children, and you've met they stood up and said hello. But we started raising our family, and we live on Reformatory Road up by the Longhouse area there, and we've been there since about 1962. And when we started out, there was no money available. It was you'd go to the Business Committee and ask for a piece of land. They could give you a piece of land, but there was no money available. If there was, you had to wait till somebody else made their $5 monthly check payment on their land, so you could get the $5 to go on your land to go and buy some wallboard. And so we lived in a basement for about 2 years. We put the basement up and lived there, and then we built the house on top of it. And but during all of this, once I started raising my family, I began to realize that there was something missing, because there was an itch, there was a yearning to go back to what my grandma and my grandpa said. And it was these stories that they were telling about the Oneidas. And it was the stories that they were telling that made me understand the influence and the underneath feeling that we have as a community. And everybody was Magazi. And I wanted to know more about that. So my grandpa Jim Schuyler was probably the main ones with the stories in our family. And he had quite a few favorable names for me at one time or another, which I won't share at this point. But, well, yeah. But what I begin to realize is that once I started raising my family, I had gone through the school system, and there was nothing there that I was satisfied with that I could take and understand and get a clearer picture of Oneida. Who is Oneida? What is it? Where is it? What does it mean? And so, as I say, we got a piece of land up by on Reformatory Road there, and that was about the time of termination coming down against the Indian people across the United States. So at that time I had 10 acres of land that was given to me as allotment, not allotment, but as a piece of property. And I began to worry about that a lot, of that termination. What's going to happen if they terminate? Where will I be? So I thought, well, the only way to find out is to get involved. So I started going to the meetings, and at that time my dad was, I think he was active with the council and Great Lakes Intertribal, but he also served as, he was vice chair during one period of time. So I began to go to the meetings, and then I became more interested, and finally I thought I'd take a test at it and run for council position. I did, and after the third time I think I got elected as a council member. But all this time I began to realize that there wasn't information there that satisfied me, and if it didn't satisfy me, how could it satisfy my children? Because it wasn't there. And if it ain't right, then fix it. And I felt that working from the council, maybe I would be able to participate and get more materials. And that's the time when Irene Moore appointed me to go to work and work with Jack Campisi in Seymour to develop the curriculum, the Oneida curriculum. And that's what we did in the early 70s. And from that, then we went on to the land claims and worked in the litigation because it was active and it was in court at the time. And all of these things kind of led one from another. But each time that I went from this portion in the Marine Corps, as an example, or even before that, playing football in high school, it was a we. The Marine Corps was a we. Working on the council was a we. And then working and putting these kind of things together for information was a we. We did 500 elders, or 502 elders that we interviewed, and we asked them 12 different topics that we tried to cover in the interview. And we were hoping to get to genealogy, and I think we covered between 5 and 6 generations in each interview that we did. And unfortunately, just like it is today, and everybody will attest to it, but nobody will say anything about it, is that the tribe moves like a dinosaur, and it moves slow, and it moves slower than the United States government, if you can believe that. And I just wasn't satisfied with the speed and the growth of the tribe. So maybe that's one of the reasons that I would work so long on a project and then move to another one. But what I was trying to do was to see if we could gather enough information so that we could provide this information to our kids. Well, as all of you know, you're getting into the contemporary now, and you got all of these things that are happening a few years ago and are continuing to happen. And again, I looked to the Creator to give me guidance in terms of where we're going, where am I going, because once you yourself know, when you step into the water and you step out again, you're never in the same place. Your foot might be there, but the water that flows keeps going. And you may stop, but the water keeps going. And you have to take a look at that and use that to your advantage. Or sometimes maybe to your disadvantage if you're not careful and you go down the wrong road. But the Creator's He's got that road that's set up for all mankind, not just for the Indian people. We're the custodians of Mother Earth. It's our responsibility to walk on this earth, but not leave a footprint. Our footprint should be invisible when we leave. When I first moved into the place over on Reformatory Road, we lived in the basement and we cut wood with a handsaw and a toboggan. And so we bring up wood every night after I got done work, and the kids, one of my kids when they write to Santa Claus, he wrote a letter to Santa Claus, or she wrote a letter to Santa Claus and said, "Thank you, but I'd like to this thing and this thing and this thing, and could you also send us an elf to help us cut wood?" And I thought, that's pretty good thinking. But the thing that I try to stress to anybody that'll listen to me and buy me coffee is that, we as Oneida people are Oneidas because we believe in it. It took me a long time to think about that. We're Oneidas because we believe we're Oneidas. If I turned around and walked out the door and went into Green Bay, it wouldn't matter what I was. I'd never have to be anything else. But as long as I believed I'm Oneida and I come and I sit among the Oneidas, I'm an Oneida because I believe it in my heart. And we have to instill that into our children. And I'm hoping, I think I'm seeing during the course of my 80-some years, is I'm seeing that happen. I've seen it come from one point in my life to another point to another point. And look at all the people that are enrolled now. Look at all it was a res car. Now a res car is a brand new car. We have to continue to work on those children. We have to give them the understanding, to teach them the respect, and that's what I hope to do with my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren the best I can. Can't do very much anymore, but I'll just keep trying. But as long as I've got the help from my family, my mother, my wife, and my kids, I'll be satisfied. The only difference is I've got to teach them to say, "Kato kolyaks." And my grandma said, if you can learn to say that, you'll never go hungry. Which means, how does that go, Jerry? Kato kolyaks, I'm hungry? Is that what that means? So I will end here. And again, but I thank my ma, my wife, my family, and all of you, because without you, there would be no me. And without me, well, I don't know. But I'd still be hungry.
Yo, Uncle. Yo, Uncle. At this time, Chairman DeHassy and Vice Chairman Brandon and the council want to present Gordy with some things of appreciation, as well as Gordy has books, the latest edition, for each one of our council members.
Tell them that there's a book signing tomorrow night at Parish Hall.
What time? 5 o'clock tomorrow evening at the Parish Hall. There'll be a book signing. Gordy will be there with his family and many of his books. Any other guests?
And there'll be food.
And there'll be food. Gadong gayaks ba? Gadong gayaks. All right.
A bag of food like to send to you. Thank you for all your years of dedication to Oneida Nation and our culture and our history alive and well. Vice Chairman Brandon Stevens, I would like to
Speak loud. Yeah, he's got to hear you.
Thank you.
We also have a song for Gordy, a special song. Yeah, Uncle. Louise has one more presentation from gaming that she'd like to present. And then after that presentation, We're going to go down to the left out of here to the Business Committee conference room. Oh, wait, there's one more. And the veterans also have a presentation. If we could have Louise and the veterans please come up at this time. And so then at the other end of the room, we've got cake and coffee, so.
What state your sleep? My name is Louise Canuris. I'm the gaming general manager, and with me this morning I have my executive assistant, Diana King, and along with us we have Tony Rader. Tony Rader was instrumental in assisting Gordy and the team and bringing slots in, getting us set up. We were not knowledgeable, or I did not have the expertise when we first started. So Tony Rader is here with us and is kind of a surprise for Gordy. He hasn't seen him probably in 20 plus years. So we just wanted to say a few words and acknowledge him because Gordy was very instrumental in my life where I'm at today and bringing the success to Oneida, especially in the casino world. And I said it on the 25-year anniversary. Gordy would say, Louise, just make a damn decision. Even if it's wrong, just make a damn decision, he said. So we did that, you know. And so today, Gordy, we at Oneida Casino take this time to honor all of your contributions to the foundation of success. We still know you today. Thank you for your leadership as a true warrior, gaming senior management. Thank you, Gordy. Gordy always said he's hungry, so we got a basket full of food here for him from the market. Thank you. Thank you. John?
Good morning. It's really a pleasure and honor to be able to speak on behalf of the Oneida Nation veterans this morning to Gordy. We have a presentation of 3 items here we're going to give today. First of all, PFC Lee Gordon McLester III, United States Marine Corps, activated from the reserves for active duty, and he served from June of 1957 until October of 1964 during the Korean era. We as veterans of the community recognize you this day, and Mr. Kerry Matoxon, our VSO for the community, received a request to have this Eagle Feather presentation this morning, and so he selected the ONVAC committee to be the providers there. We've invited Gordy's daughter Jenny to join us here. She is the liaison to the ONVAC committee. I'd like to first introduce Jerry Cornelius, who's going to actually come up and present the Eagle Feather to Gordy from all of the veterans of the Oneida Nation. I'm not going to read what's on the plaque for the Eagle Feather presentation. If any of you do go to the reception following this, you can read the inscription itself. But basically, this is the highest honor bestowed upon an individual in our Native communities today. And our veterans take a lot of pride in making these things happen. Secondly, we'll be giving him the plaque, which describes this eagle feather and how he must care for it. He will be given that, and that'll be on available for him. And then thirdly, we have a Code Talker Memorial coin, which will also go from the veterans of the United Nation. This eagle feather was blessed this morning prior to the ceremony because we didn't want to bring our smudging tobacco here, so we did that this morning at the Veterans Service Building prior to it being provided to Mr. McLester this morning. So gentlemen, if you would please present these things to him.
president, they give you this medal designated the code topic. Giving you a hug.
Remember, all this fancy stuff you got now, you got money. You buy the coffee on Wednesday.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Mr. McLester.
All right, maybe we can take a 2-minute break so we can move the tables down and everybody can get to the end of the hall. Yanko, Ogwe. Okay.
Doing, sir? All right, we'll take a quick 5-minute recess.
All right.